everybody. David Sir, eXp Realty here, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that showed up to the NAREP event in Orange County in Huntington Beach. It was an awesome event, and about 6 or 7 people came up to me and said, thank you for giving me some perspective. They said, I have autistic children, and or maybe I think that I might be autistic. And again, we're spreading an awareness and we're helping people, even though we're speaking about real estate, just letting it be known that I'm autistic has been helping other people. So Autism Awareness Month continues. And I'm going to continue to read my book here. And we are speaking about Chapter 15, My Autistic Body, Sensory Joy, and Avoiding Meltdowns. I'm going to skyline myself a little bit, talk to you a little bit about how I volunteer in some of these schools, and also give you some examples as an adult, some things that have happened recently. Okay, here we go. Chapter 15. I have a very different relationship with my body than most people. I feel disconnected from it at times, like I'm studying my body versus living in it. I know that amongst other issues, I don't process pain properly. It wasn't until I was an adult that I started recognizing issues that I was having with pain. When I was young, during football season, I had Osgood-Schlatter's disease in my right kneecap. I continued to play for so long, and it exacerbated it so badly that I had to be carried off the field during practice. The knee was uncomfortable. I was limping, but I ran on it for so long that it buckled out from underneath me, and I could no longer put weight on it. As an adult in the Marine Corps, I broke my right foot and partially tore my Achilles tendon. I told a medical corpsman right away, and he told me, you wouldn't be walking on it if it was broken. So I continued to train on it. My whole leg started turning shades of blue and purple over the course of the next few months, and it wasn't until I was on a 17-mile hike, which I finished, that the limp grew so bad that I could no longer walk on it properly without looking like I was a pirate walking on a peg leg. Over the course of the next few years, I had surgery on my foot, deployed on it, and then had another reconstructive surgery, which ended my career in the Marine Corps. I play with my kids. We have 4 between the 2 of us, and another one on the way, though no one knows yet. And my wife will remind me that I should take it a little bit easier. We'll play a game where we're on the trampoline, and I'll shake the entire trampoline around, and I'll lift them up in the air with the trampoline on it, or with them on the trampoline. Now, you can imagine that if I do this for 15 minutes, I can't do it for very long without paying for it. The problem is, I get so lost in pretending to be the bad guy, lifting up the one end on the trampoline and letting them fall into the netting, that I don't pay attention to my body. I don't think that, oh, that hurts, and I should slow down. I have to process the pain. Here's a good analogy. After my second foot surgery, I found that the nerve damage along the inside of my foot, parts of it send shooting sensations up my leg and into my spine, and the inside, following my arch and into my big toe, are completely numb. It's sort of how your mouth feels after you get a Novocaine shot into your gums. That part of my face is numb. You can feel some pressure or pulling, but no centralized feeling. I was encouraged by my doctor to frequently check my foot when I was walking around barefoot outside. One day while I was at home, I realized there was red liquid on the floor. I'll save you the suspense. It was blood. I had stepped on a piece of glass. It stuck in my foot, and I had a little blood paste marks all over my house. I looked at the blood on the floor, followed it around, and it took a moment until I realized that it was coming out of the bottom of my foot. That's how I process most pain. I see something that's bothering me, I process it, and then I realize I'm uncomfortable. I often don't realize I'm in pain until it is overwhelming pain. I don't know why my body works like this, but it is part of the reason I have had joints that continue to bother me. There are a lot of ways that I start with my body, and I work from there. I have to remember to check in with all of myself. Or sometimes I will get so uncomfortable that I will blow up or get emotional and not understand why. Now that I'm more cognizant of the things that are bothering me, I recognize when my legs start shaking, or my fingers start going, or my breathing becomes shallow and my eyes start zoning out. I may not be able to recognize my triggers, but I can work to better understand when I am triggered and take action to avoid spiraling out of control. There's another way that I start with my body. I'm very systematic about cleanliness and my hygiene ritual. I clean from head to toe, and I think of myself that way before I walk out the door. Is my hair done? Is my face shaved? Am I wearing deodorant? Are my feet comfortable? If I don't leave my deodorant on the counter, I will forget to put it on. I know this about myself, so I leave it on the counter. Health is also a big issue for people with Asperger's. And quite frankly, I don't feel qualified to talk about diet. You'll have to find another book for that one. I'm awful with my diet, and my body pays for it. I forget meals. I'll eat way too much Mexican food, pizza, and cheeseburgers. Another element of my body that causes many of our mishaps is our body language. Body language is important. Even if you have to fake it, it will help you to learn it. One of the big tools that I use that I didn't know that I was using is a technique called mirroring and matching. I will often pick up on people's speech inflections, body language, and demeanors, and I will mimic them. It's something I did from a very young age without realizing that I was doing it. There's a great piece on boundaries issues in Eat, Pray, Love, and she says that she talks about becoming the people that she loves. They say you are the average of the company that you keep. And it could not be more true than with people with Asperger's if they lack boundaries or a sense of self. That being said, people tend to love in others what they see in themselves. I'm not being inauthentic or rude. I just pick up on people's demeanors and rhythm of speech when we are talking. And when I do, those tend to be very fun or interesting conversations. So for most of my life, I would subconsciously pick up on other people's body language that I admired and mirror it out to the world. It doesn't make you inauthentic if you are body conscious. Smiling is one of the best, most natural mirroring and matching techniques. When people smile at you, smile, even if you feel like a smile looks weird on your face. For years, I told my family that some faces aren't just made to smile. My yearbook photos are bizarre. Smiling Smiling authentically was something I had to work on. Now I know to raise my eyebrows, smile with my eyes like Tyra Banks, and show my teeth. It doesn't always turn out right. Just scroll through my Facebook pictures to see some examples of that. For me, I feel like smiling was a learned behavior. It's not my default by any means. I love to laugh. I laugh a great deal, but I never used to walk around with a smile on my face. I actually had a stage in my life where I would walk around my high school with my jaw hanging slack if I felt like it. I remember a friend of mine, Jesse Roberts, calling out to me by my last name and saying, "Close your mouth." And I said, "No." And I continued to walk with my mouth hanging open. I felt like facial expressions were stupid. I felt like facial expressions were stupid. I wanted to relax my face, and I was going to do it when I felt like it. In hindsight, while writing this out, saying this out loud, I'm totally shocked that I ever got laid in high school, but I did all right. It's those sort of things that went through my head when I was younger, walking from class to class by myself. Another time, I decided that it was more efficient for me to walk around while taking abnormally large steps. I didn't care that no one else walked as fast as I did or with my gait because I never walked with anyone else. I'm telling you, I really had to work my ass off not to highlight myself regularly in the social experiment that is high school. It took a few years, but my junior year, I decided that I was going to start wearing pajamas and slippers to high school because they were comfortable, that I was only going to take classes that I wanted to take and show up when I wanted to show up. I also decided I was done pretending like I was a nice guy, and I started working less to filter and allowed myself to be a bit of an asshole. That's really when things started picking up for me. I kind of settled into myself, ironically. It was when I stopped masking that I became more cool in high school. I became the rebel, and people love a bit of a rebel until they work with one, marry one, or are being raised by one. So we can't walk around being us all the time. You're going to need to understand the importance of what the world thinks you are going through so that you can address it. I've had these conversations where I will start crying while talking to other men. I have to own it. I can't act like I'm not crying. Sometimes people will talk to me about something and I will get so enthralled in what is going on that I'll get flooded with emotions and I'll start crying. I just have to become a confident man that cries sometimes. I will work hard not to cry, but I am an emotional being. I can't mask all the time, so my body will start to show when I get frustrated. When I feel it coming on, I try to get clarity. If I don't define what the emotion is or is not, I will lose control of it. I don't understand why people are mean sometimes, and so I will react poorly. I want to understand, and if I don't understand, I spiral. And if I spiral, I will wear everything outside of me anyway. There have been a lot of books written about the science of the mind, but we are not tracking the science of the mind in an authentic interaction between human beings. We can only do this through long-term observation or authentic testimony. Most of my emotional overdrive and my physical overdrive come when I cannot process the information given to me. When I'm being told a story that is confusing to me, I will get irritated. Just like when there are too many sounds happening in a room at one time, I will get irritated. Or when someone is being sarcastic or making light of a joke at my expense, I will often take it seriously and react in a way that makes people say, I'm just joking. It is a processing problem. My brain works a lot like my computer editing music. I will have a track that's playing through in real time as I edit. Occasionally, I will add an effect to the vocal. Then I'll hear a 10 on the guitar that I'll take out. Then the chorus will start playing, and I'll drag in a loop that I want in from another chorus and drop it in the chorus that is currently playing. And then I will get the rainbow ring of death that tells me that I overloaded the program. The program will slow down for a moment, and it will either catch back up or it won't, and I will lose everything. Just like with the computer, if I notice when the screen starts to lag and I slow it down a little bit, I have a better shot at not losing everything. I have a better chance at limiting my exposure to seeing that rainbow ring of death. Or our bodies are the same way. Sometimes we just have too much that we're trying to process at one time. It's not that we can't process it. Sometimes it's just coming in too fast and it becomes overwhelming. It's very interesting to me as a newbie to the ASD community, how little we talk about enjoying our senses, how little we talk about if we can rewire our brains for gratitude. I think we will find ourselves tuned in more often to the joys that we experience. Why not allow ourselves to wear comfortable clothing? Why not enjoy looking up at the sky more often? Why not stare into nature with rapt interest? Why not be the loud initiator of the loud noises in your life? Take control. Be the initiator in your own life, and then we will be able to spend less time reacting to it. I know that I like soft things. I know I like certain smells. I know I like beauty and nature. I know I love to study and I love to create. I know I hate a lot of things, and I'm trying my best not to list them right now. I want to address our senses differently. I want to look at a redirection of the senses. I had a theory that Lenny from Of Mice and Men was autistic. It popped into my head while writing this chapter, so I took a few moments to find that I'm not the only person that has drawn this conclusion. It was a beautiful thing to read out Alex Lowry's article of Mice and Men, Is Lenny Autistic? He grafted a beautiful article, and it saved me the time to research. John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men was published in 1937. In 1943, autism became a diagnosis, which leads me to believe John Steinbeck recognized the traits in someone else. It also explains why I loved this book when I was younger. I have done scenes from the play, and I have gone to see it live twice. Lenny works to redirect and soothe himself. He does it relatively well when it is just him and his best friend George who understands him. He loves to pet soft things like field mice and rabbits and is infatuated with this idea that him and his best friend are going to have a ranch with all different kinds of bunnies. I won't give you the whole story. It is a tragic one, and it is one of the most tragically beautiful endings to a book I have ever read or witnessed on stage. It is still one that we see play out today. Someone loses control of a situation and acts out of fear and misunderstanding when they are greeted with more fear and more misunderstanding. If we can spread awareness, we can save lives, and maybe we can spread a little joy too. It is easy to get overwhelmed visually in large crowds. There's lots of movement. Often when I volunteer at a local elementary school, I can see a child dealing with sensory overwhelm during lunchtime or while transitioning between classes. There are bells going off every few minutes, children shifting in and out, yelling, whistles, and this is the time that people with autism spectrum disorder get highlighted for being weird in workplaces and in school. When I am in work, it is easy to disappear for a solo lunch if the crowds are too large. I see children at school that eat by themselves, come in late with an adult, or sit at a table with other children that fit their energy levels, and I pop in to say hello to my little professors. When I am dealing with sight sensory overwhelm, I have a list of action items that I take in order to allow myself to stay in a crowded area. These are the steps that I take in order. Look above, look below, close eyes and breathe, and get up and leave. Look above. I am very fortunate in that I am tall. I'm a confident 6'2", so when I get sight sensory overwhelm, I look above and I focus on something that is not moving further out. This will help me to recenter and refocus while taking some inconspicuous deep breaths through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. Look below. When it is not possible to look above the stimulus, I will look at my hands or the ground. If you're in a stadium or at a diner with television screens, it may be impossible to look above. In these moments, look below. Find a spot on the ground, your legs or your hands, and recenter and refocus while taking some deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Close eyes and breathe. I do this more often when I'm with my family, and I feel like I'm losing control of myself in the situations. I have had to become more zen about this, having 4 kids with another one on the way and living in a blended family. Closing my eyes and breathing is a much more difficult thing in a public place where I already feel uncomfortable in unfamiliar settings. Closing my eyes at home or in the office feels much more comfortable, and it is also totally freaking okay. It is extraordinarily interesting that we find it more acceptable as a society to be thought of as a person who gets loud, angry, and reactive when they're frustrated, versus a person who closes their eyes, takes a few moments to take some deep breaths, to recenter and refocus and respond to their surroundings. Get up and leave. Excuse yourself and walk out. This is possible in most situations, whether it is to go use the restroom, take a phone call, or have a smoke break, or sit down to read and meditate for a moment. I know that it feels like the world can't possibly go on without us for 15 minutes and our intellectual contributions to it, but it can. Sometimes I will even take a break if I feel like a brainstorming session will be better without me in it for a few moments. This is uncomfortable for me, but I'm going to skyline myself as an adult and give you all a recent example in a business setting. A few days ago, I attended a small, amazing conference with John Cheplack. It was truly incredible. The environment was great. We were talking about a lot of topics that I enjoy, as it was a business seminar. Throughout the course of the day, I got tired. I had been reading faces all day, trying not to blurt out everything that came into my head, which is exhausting in and of itself. And I was 45 minutes late because I saved 3 muddy dogs that were running down the road and loaded them into the back of my wife's Lexus and tracked down their owners. When I arrived at the conference, I hadn't started yet, but my suit was muddy and I smelled like dogs. I had carried a yellow lab pit mix to my car because he was afraid of the road and wouldn't come near it. The other 2 jumped right in. I felt uncomfortable, but I explained my situation to a few people and pressed on. The morning was great. Energy of the room was good. It was attentive. Phones were down. People were engaged. The hum of the room was constant from an air conditioning unit. It was a winery, so the lighting was dim. The space was cozy. All things were good. I started lunch with a few people, and the lunch table grew out and became larger, and then round tables were pushed together. I enjoyed everyone at the table, but there were more people present than I had planned, and it became hard to read everyone, so I overtalked. I excused myself early and went for a brief walk alone before heading back in. I was exhausted from lunch, and I was overthinking the interaction and hoping it didn't come off too business aggressive for anyone's taste. I am a high D driving personality. I'm obsessive and single-minded. I don't do small talk. Business lunches with me can become an extremely aggressive mastermind, which doesn't suit everyone. I sat back down and I felt uncomfortable in the chairs as it had been a long day already. The lighting was wonderful for most of the day, but towards the end, we stopped on a white slide and the glare of the projector was absolutely awful. A few people had started going in and out and using the restroom and taking phone calls. The person next to me had a broken phone that prevented her volume button from being pushed down, so her phone went off all day. A few people had their screens up and were typing in their screens, and their phones were very bright and distracting. I was becoming very overwhelmed by everything around me, and I started losing track of the conversation. I started to weigh out the repercussions of leaving 30 minutes early. I was surrounded by people I loved and respected, and 60% of the room that I did not know. How would it look to the room if the guy that lived 20 minutes away dipped out early when they traveled from all over the country to be there? 4 steps. Look above, look below, close eyes and breathe, get up and leave. Look above. I knew I was overwhelmed. The screen was glaring. People were on their phones and their laptops. I pushed myself back from the table, but I did not stand. I needed to look at something that was going to make my head not feel like I was spinning, like I was on a boat. I couldn't see past the screen because everything past the screen was in the shadows. There was nothing to look at, and people started looking back at me and smiling and sharing a look with me about something that was said, and I felt out of control. I couldn't stare at anything past the speaker because he was moving as he's energetic and was keeping the room engaged. Look below, step 2. I looked at the table. I started to act like I was taking notes so I could refocus myself. I was losing interest because I couldn't follow. He directed a question at me about my business, and I snap in and I answer his question. I look at my hands and I'm stimming. I put my hands in my pockets and my legs want to move, so I stand up. Close eyes and breathe. I'm around people that I don't know. This is not an option. I stare at the wine bottles on the wall and I breathe. I put my stuff in my backpack and I get up to leave. I lean over and I tell my best friend, Zach, I might leave. He doesn't respond. I feel like this might be inappropriate. I'm now the only person in the room standing other than the speaker, but I'm doing my best to stay. The conference is called early, a few minutes, and I was able to stick around. Get up and leave would have been the 4th step had the conference gone on any longer. I would have taken a bathroom break and then come back into the room. I try not to do this while a speaker is talking, but I was weighing my options. It is almost always okay to take a bathroom break. I learned this from a 3rd grader yesterday. We'll call him Billy. I walked into the hallway and I said, I'm here to work with Billy. And the teacher said, well, that's Billy. And Billy was sitting curled up in a ball in the corner. He had just ripped up his papers and threw them everywhere. I took the folder and I sat down and I said, do you want to work on this? He said, no. And then he walked out and went to the bathroom. Well, I waited outside the bathroom on a chair where teachers could see for about 15 minutes. And periodically I would say, are you ready to work now? Eventually we got to work for a few minutes. I removed a few of the distractions, including a friend that wasn't helping, and allowed him to adjust to the idea of working with me. I let him know I would not be frustrated and I would not give up. Eventually we worked on his schedule. I can get overwhelmed and do a wonderful job of handling it in most cases, unless it is a noise. My sense of hearing is the easiest sense to overwhelm. This is why I spend so much of my life with music on. It is the easiest way to tune out the noise of the world around me. It is the best way to prevent something from startling me. I can become very angry quickly if I hear something and I can't identify where the sound is coming from. Whether it is the tapping of a person's fingers or a pin on the table, or a rattling in another room, the sound of a hair dryer, the hum of an appliance, the water draining down the sink, a dog suddenly barking or repetitively licking themselves, anything shrill, beats on short loops, whatever it is, I overload more quickly from noises than anything else. Writing this now, I hear traffic, yard work, the wind blowing through the trees, sirens in the distance, someone closing their garage, a yapping dog, one of the kids is riding a scooter in the house, someone's tapping a small ball, there's a motorcycle somewhere, a low rumble of a classic car somewhere else, and one of the kids keeps tapping on the glass. There's a Sparkles truck parked behind my house, and he's working on something, and I'm waiting for him to leave. This is what happens when I don't play music. I put on Mozart. I wake up naturally before most of the world. It is nice to feel what life would be like if I lived somewhere a little bit quieter. When I am awake at 5:30 a.m., it is peaceful. Sometimes I get so lost in the early morning tranquility and my work that suddenly I will realize hours later that I'm shaking. I didn't realize that the world was gradually getting louder until I'm shaking and out of focus at 7:45 a.m. because the world is up, traffic is buzzing, and people are headed to work and school, and I forget to turn up my music. I place my speaker behind my right ear, and I tune out the noise, and I write. I don't like to go to the grocery store, not just because of the poor lighting, but because of the smell of the meat. Ironically, I used to work dairy in a grocery store. It smelled awful, but I was alone for good portions of the day in a giant refrigerator or freezer, and so I dealt with it. Since combat, the smell of raw meat can send me into a panic. This could certainly be PTSD related, but as I made the case for earlier, I believe that people with ASD are more susceptible to trauma, however mild. We categorize it and tuck it away in a place of extreme danger in our brain. Often the trauma is related not to personal injury, but injury to someone else. Most of my trauma-related injuries have to do with being unable to prevent pain to other people. Look at Dustin Hoffman's character in The Rain Man. Perhaps his largest meltdown in the entire movie was When he saw hot water going into a bathtub, he remembered that it hurt the baby, not that it was related to him being sent away. He loved his little brother and sang to him when he was little. In the movie, he is sent away because they are worried that he will hurt the baby. Touch. My sense of touch is so intense that I can't even look at other people touching items in ways that I would not. Fingertips dragging and sticking across a surface. So what? Look away. I can't stand when people repetitively touch me during the course of a conversation. A lot of women do this when they talk to me. They will continuously tap my leg or my arm, and it drives me absolutely nuts. I can't recoil or people will be offended. I have in the past, and I get called out for it. If someone that I'm close to touches the center of my chest, it is a rage button for me. If men are recounting an aggressive story and they start pointing towards my chest, I back up. And I also very gently ask them not to touch my chest. Some men will take this as an affront to their manhood and immediately want to touch my chest. And I just tell them, I would really prefer it if you would respect my personal space and not point your finger at my chest. I would like to hear the rest of your story. Most men at this point will say, geez, okay, and feel offended, but they will feel grateful for a way out of an altercation and have a direction back towards their story of incredible bravado in the face of great tyranny. I've said before, most people want to be heard. Most people do not want to be hit in the face. I can sweat the small stuff, or I can redirect towards something that I enjoy touching. If someone continues to touch me lightly during the course of a conversation, I can lean back, rub my hands like I'm giving myself a hand massage, and most people will not lean forward into someone else's space and continue to touch them. If they do continue to rub your hands and stretch, this will give them a better indication that you don't like to be touched and is a good visual indicator that you are ready to get up and excuse yourself from that situation. If it happens again, go to the bathroom or to your car for a moment and then come back and relocate yourself with other less touchy people if you can. It is hard to give visual indications that you don't want to be touched without coming off as cold. I have no problem giving someone a handshake or a hug or a high five, but repetitive, light, or unwelcome touch is unbearable. Taste? Just avoid it. Be healthy and all that crap. Through EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, I know we can rewire the brain like we would a computer. I was in EMDR therapy before I could no longer continue to financially. I believe that people with ASD practice a similar method while walking or pacing. Others do it while passing a ball back and forth between their hands or moving both hands or tapping. It's about refocusing the brain through bilateral movement. I had an incredibly stressful morning, and I had my morning routine threatened by a client poaching realtor, but he failed, and I did not. I got it all figured out, but I felt shattered and betrayed. I came outside needing to refocus, and it started raining. The rain drowns out the noise around me, and I put on the song I Love the Rain the Most by Joe Purdy, and I'm grateful for the sounds of rain and good music. It reminds me to enjoy the inverse. I hear the sounds of rain tapping on still gutters and the canopy cover above me, pattering in the pool, the way that the water sounds on tires as they slush through new puddles, and I'm grateful for my profound sense of things. The environment and the perspective have shifted. I have no desire to be cured. While I was inside, my wife was catching me up on the stresses of the day, and I found myself looking above, looking below, and closing my eyes to breathe. She updated me on all the important but stressful things and then thanked me for dealing with everything. She then let me go, and I switched to hot chocolate and continued my routine before needing to step out of the door. I thanked her for giving me the opportunity to handle this early, and then I could get back to my writing. Don't get so caught up in sensory overload that you don't enjoy the inverse. It is perfectly okay to be a 33-year-old man drinking hot chocolate under a canopy, listening to the rain and beautiful music. There's another beautiful song called Pretty Things by Rufus Wainwright. He says, pretty things. So what if I like pretty things? I try to shift away from the anger and contempt of the people in the present and enjoy the overarching joys that have been brought to us throughout history. Take time to see the beautiful things that are happening. CBS News started a new advertising campaign that I've noticed. They are promoting positive news, and I can see the shares in my Facebook feed. Take time to see pretty things and spend more time enjoying your senses when possible, and set yourself up for success. I'm not telling you to go full Lenny and carry a mouse in your pocket to rub when you get stressed out. That was a terrible way to read that sentence. I'm not telling you to go full Lenny and carry a mouse in your pocket to rub when you get stressed out, but enjoy a more comfortable suit. Wear clothes that you can move more freely in. Listen to great music and look for pretty things. Try to stop looking for danger at every corner and enjoy your senses. Find the places where you can, whether that is a school library, a quiet corner, or anywhere else that you can observe people while engaging while you eat, or take a quick bathroom break. It is okay to simply take a moment. And when you are home, wear your sweats and your beanie. Enjoy your hoodies and good music. Take quick breaks and see the pretty little things, and try not to get lost in the bullshit that isn't really there yet. Do your head-to-toe checks in the morning and remember your deodorant, but also check in with your head. Taking quiet time to charge before the general hustle and bustle of work, school, and life gets started makes it possible for me to handle the pettiness and concentrate more fully on enjoying the pretty things. Thank you guys for watching. Please feel free to hit subscribe on my YouTube channel, David Serpa at eXp Realty. Thank you to everyone that's been watching, and feel free to get a copy of my book, All the World's a Stage, Unmasking Asperger's Syndrome or High Functioning Autism or Autism Spectrum Disorder or whatever it is they're calling it. I tend to be a little long-winded. And tune in tomorrow where we read chapter 16, The Autistic Filter, Breaking Eggs, Making Omelets, and Knowing My Lines. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.